Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 94 of the Real Estate Show. We have Anthony and Jason here. Welcome, guys.
What's going on? You got all your fingers and limbs from blowing fireworks off all weekend?
He has his kids start them.
That's a smart thing to do.
I saw a time lapse of like the skyline of Rochester, and they time lapsed the entire 4th of July night and all the illegal fireworks going up.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you see LA, Los Angeles, LA County? Did you see that video?
Yeah, I saw that. Where they went through like with a drone or like a helicopter.
It was like, I think it was like 8:45 at night, and the whole
Oh no.
You just muted yourself.
there we go again.
All right.
It was like every single house for like a 5-mile square, block was just lighting off fireworks at the same time.
In LA County, where it's like fucking houses burned down like crazy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's lost a little bit of its luster, Back in my day, you had to go across the border into Pennsylvania to some, guy smoking a cigarette, selling you them for, $600. Now you can just go to Target.
Yeah.
I don't like that game.
How about
the ones that you can get here don't, what do you call it?
They don't go in the air.
Projectile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some of the PA ones, and they're fun.
Yeah. I always go back to like, as advanced as the world becomes and as smart as everybody is, it's like, to me, it's comical. Like, if there's fireworks going on, everyone stops in their tracks and just stare at it like big dummies.
Mm-hmm. I love the people complaining. I saw like a couple of people complaining about like their dogs freaking out. It's like, I have 2 dogs and like 30 goats. I don't know what to tell you. They don't like fireworks. It happens every year,
I heard if you stick your thumb in their ass, it settles them down.
I mean, we do that daily anyways, just to make sure they're healthy,
Check the temperature.
Yeah.
Massage the prostate of the goats.
Anthony, you just established you're too good for fireworks? Is that what I just heard?
No. I'll stare, right? I'll stare at other people's fireworks, but it's just, to me, it's like, it's just comical how enamored everybody is by them.
Yeah, fireworks and parades.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that fire truck. You're 48, man. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, parades don't do it for me. Never been a parade guy. What are we talking about today? Fireworks?
Fireworks. Thumbing billy goats.
Off to a hot start.
Every show I'm in a different agent's office in my building. Today I'm live from Adam Prescott's desk.
God.
Here's this beautiful
terrible
family.
Stop.
I can't get in the same space as you.
I know.
So I gotta find a room. So it's nice. The AC's working good in here too. It is torture outside. Everyone looks like they got a nice tan though.
Yeah, I
Spend
got
some
some
time
good days.
outside, Mark?
Yeah, a lot of swimming. It's just been taking over my parents' house. They got a new pool.
Yeah.
So got to stay out of the heat.
Nice.
Good style.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Mark? You got an article about tenants not paying rent?
Oh, yeah. It looks like so is 31% of tenants saying that they can't pay the rent currently. I mean, there were some pauses on rent, right? Because of COVID, but those are all, I mean, it's not like they go away, right? You still have to pay it even though it's paused.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, what it is a pause on a landlord having the ability to evict anybody.
Yeah.
And they started it, whatever it was, March or April.
Yep.
and established it was going to run through, I think, August, middle August, something like that. So just right off the bat, I mean, you got, 4 or 5 months of, tenants knowing that they can't be removed from a property. And, obviously the fear for landlords is,
Can't do shit about it.
Yeah, that's just going to lead to a snowball effect of tenants saying, well, you can't get rid of me, and F you, I guess I'm living for free.
Yeah. Right now, you're probably looking at December to actually like go through the process and have a date set for when they have to vacate by.
Yeah.
So the savvy, it's interesting. So to me, the savvy tenants are going to be the ones that are going to stop paying. And I just went through it with a tenant of mine, and I knew she was playing the game. And, eventually it surfaced. I knew she had the money. It wasn't that. I'm not heartless. I'd work with anybody. But I knew she was playing the game. And the truth eventually came out. But, yeah, when you put those articles out and, the tenants become savvy, I don't have to pay my rent. There's no consequences. I could ride this out for free till December. I'm going to do it. Jesus Christ. Jason, how do we spin this into an investment show?
Well, all right. So, I mean, you guys are more from the, not the tenant. What's the opposite of the tenant? The
landlord.
Yeah, like from the landlord side. But there are people that can't pay their rent because lost a job or whatever during this. So what's the proper solution? Like in your point of view, what would be like a good thing that could happen? We could do to help everybody involved.
I mean, let's touch on the tenant side of it first. I mean, to those that are not just blatantly abusing, power, so to speak. Yeah, COVID has its implications, and there's certainly people that can't pay their rent and aren't abusing the situation. So sympathetic towards that, and I think landlords are going to. Their only choice is to offer to, all right, let's figure out what we can do to work with this here. What can you do? What can you not? I mean, there's a breaking point of like, okay, look, it's been 6 months and you haven't paid a dime. As soon as the courts open back up, I got to get you out of here.
Yeah.
My position as a landlord or representing landlords has always been like, if you make the good faith effort to try to work with somebody who's in a distressed position, just keep the karma on your side. I mean, these are real people that have real situations too, and you got to be sympathetic towards it, especially in times like we've experienced the last half a year. It feels like.
Yeah, you figure it out, you work it out. There's solutions. I mean, they may have a good-looking wife, right? There's ways. That's terrible, Jason. Jason just texted me to say that. You're crazy.
Oh God. No, I mean, I think as a landlord, you have to understand that you're going to have turnover, whether it's a tenant leaves and at the end of a lease, or breaking the lease, or you actually have to go through the eviction process because they're defaulting or damaging the place or not paying. So don't get into this game if you're just expecting it to be checking your mailbox every month on the first and no calls, no issues in the meantime. It's just not how it works.
And you want to look at the history of that tenant.
Yeah, for sure. But you just got to have that expectation. You got to know how to manage people, right? I mean, you want to treat others how you want to be treated, right? So that goes a long way in this landlord game. To if you establish a good rapport with your tenant, it's going to pay off. I guarantee it. Yeah, you'll always have a bad apple, but there's really nothing you can do to control that in that scenario.
And if these tenants have a good history, they've paid, and this thing happened because a lot of people were stuck, and a lot of people had to wait for unemployment. I mean, you make arrangements, and if you're a landlord and you have a mortgage on the property, There was things to be worked out with your lender to postpone those mortgage payments. They would just backload them to the end of the mortgage, so maybe it would reduce your expenses where you could absorb that blow. And if it's paid off in full, I'm sure you have the means to cover it for a little while. It is what it is. I mean, there were tough times, but the reality is, and the good part is, Rochester's economy is in way better shape than I thought we would be right now. And what we're going through is speaking to it. I mean, clearly people are not scared of spending money right now. So there's still consumer confidence in Rochester. Unemployment's still super low, but things are going to change. I was just having this conversation with somebody prior to this, and we're talking about tenants. Companies have acknowledged that they can get shit done with their employees working from home. And I think we're going to see a lot of empty brick and mortar. Excelis is never bringing their people back, it doesn't sound like. Paychex is keeping like entire divisions home. And listen, there's a cost to every employee that takes up a square foot in your building. There's a cubicle or a desk, there's utilities. They're holding it to go to the bathroom when they get to work to kill 15 minutes. So they wreak havoc on your plumbing. There's a lot of benefits of keeping them home. And think about it from the employee, right? Like, you wouldn't have to change anybody's salary if they're productive from home and they've been productive, even being stuck home with their kids. Think about what they could potentially save a month in daycare, right? I mean, that's huge. Daycare keeps people out of the workforce because it's so expensive. Where now maybe there are roles that these people could do, and there are jobs that people can do if they're a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad.
That's a great point. I wasn't necessarily even thinking about with the topic of the show. But I mean, that's, commercial real estate, because of everything going on, is going to have a huge impact. I mean, the retail segment of it was, on its way to dying before COVID, and, can probably predict that it's going to be in the ground, in coming years. Office has been relatively stable, the office sector. And now you've got question marks around that. So, and I know there's been certain, big companies that have just said, hey, we're out, we can't pay. And these are major investments for a lot of, a lot of major, business landlord type entities. There's more of the, corporate entity type landlord in the commercial world than there is the mom and pop type. Not to say that's not existent, but these are big assets with big price tags and big tax dollars attached to them. That industry goes, sideways. That's going to have an effect on a lot of things.
Think about what it's going to do in New York City right now, right? I mean,
right.
Think about that. I mean, what a benefit for these people that are working in the city. If they don't live in the city, that's a nightmare. Yeah. And when you really consider how productive people have been working from home, and, Frankie's been coming in from Jersey every day and, driving to a port and jumping on a ferry. And, it's 2 hours of their day is just commute. I mean, it's brutal.
I wonder
if you can keep people home, do it.
I wonder if you start seeing, this is the trend where people are going to be working from home. If you start seeing when people buy homes, that being considered more,
100%.
Getting a bigger home, getting something where it's almost like aside from the house, this is my office area. It's a couple of rooms or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Formal dining room is going to be the future office.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, we're already seeing just the trends, as a result of COVID, kind of, the unintended consequences. And, it's one of the catalysts of the market. I'm not going to say it's like a major effect so far, but there's a lot of people out there that are looking to get, their new home because they don't want to be stuck in the small home that they currently have. So, I mean, along with that, what you said, Mark, there's a lot of that, motivation to it. Like, okay, I got to have this home. I got to have my office space. Where's my office going to be?
Yeah, spaces, whether it's your home or whether it's your office, spaces that seem like they functioned well pre-pandemic and future pandemics, because whether this thing doesn't go away or whatever the next one is, whenever we're dealing with COVID-20, people are acknowledging that. And like, the typical family pre-pandemic, mom and dad were working, or one of them was working, and the kids had sports at night, and like, what was it, maybe an hour or two a day where the whole family is awake and there at the same time. Now it turned into 24/7, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I've got nowhere to hide, and my wife is annoying. You know what I mean? These kids are.
Everybody needs an escape room,
Yeah, no doubt.
Or I was also thinking too, performance spaces. If you have like, like where the RPO plays or like a comedy club or something, do places start considering bigger rooms just in case they have to social distance at some, in the future type of thing, instead of these crammed spaces?
I think people are going to be going out less, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's no.
And
I mean, the cost of these spaces, if we're talking about commercial real estate, being affected, they're going to have to try to make up that money. It's not going to be profitable for them to give spaces away. And, are the people using them going to want to pay for more to, essentially have less occupancy or try to maintain the same occupancy as before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's tough.
If you're looking for commercial space right now, you could probably jump on somebody's space and sublet it at probably a fraction of the cost.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people that are stuck in these long-term leases, and they're sitting, there's empty space they're paying for, and they'd rather take something. So you could probably sublet some space really cheap right now.
It's a good point. I mean,
finished basements, and that's the other thing too. I was thinking about, like, everyone, if they didn't have a finished basement before, they're doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, back to the investment market, specific to Rochester. I mean, we're seeing activity. Frankly, a surprising amount of activity too. I think location is going to matter more than ever, just because you're going to want to be in locations where the notion isn't to just take advantage of a no eviction mandate. But I think overall, I think the news and the hype of what's going on in terms of the ability to not be able to evict somebody, I think it has a greater impact than what's actually happening, in certain areas, I guess. So, I mean, the market's still stable here locally with solid investments to make. I mean, there's still rent to be collected, and there's still money to be made. So it's actually been surprising the amount of activity that we're seeing of people that actually want to buy. There's certainly a lot of people seller-wise that are chomping at the bit to get out of it. But with those sellers that we're working with, we're seeing a lot of intern buyer activity too to support the supply. So that's good.
Yeah, still consumer confidence right now, with everything going on, and like there's a ton of uncertainty right now. And listen, we have to how the world's going to respond during the next pandemic, and with all that, there's a ton of scary. I mean, honestly, there's going to be a Spielberg movie about this, right? It's only a matter of time. Please don't be Joe Pesci and
no.
Joe Pesci playing a 20-year-old. I can't wait.
Yeah. But no, it's different times. Jason, the other thing I was thinking about too is like the people that wanted to get into investment properties, they wanted to become landlords, and they didn't want to deal with Section 8 or Social or DSS. Those are the people that got their guaranteed payments during this time, because it's government funds. They weren't cutting people off.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's more Not that there wasn't incentive before, but I mean, it's just more stability that can be offered.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Anthony and I are not. We've got a few investments. We're not like major players in the landlord industry, but knock on wood, so far so good. We haven't had any tenants that are trying to take advantage of it. I truly do think it's just the way that we treat people. Has a lot to do with it. If any of these tenants like lost their job or didn't have the ability to pay rent, we would be forced to deal with it and find an amicable solution.
Yeah.
So you can't just be, so quick to, I'm going to evict you, get the hell out of my house, because unfortunately right now, if you take that inhumane approach, warranted or not, it's going to backfire on you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wait,
it's interesting out there along with everything else. So
is there any suggestions for people that want to get into it, get into investing in real estate for, like as a landlord or anything, with this new market and everything?
Yeah, I mean, the advice remains the same for everybody starting out, is just like, what are your goals? And depending on what those goals are, we can advise on whether the Rochester market can help you achieve those goals or not. Because the reality of the market here locally, the way things are presented, by agents or by sellers is far from reality oftentimes. So, you got to kind of read through the bullshit to be able to know, like, okay, they're presenting a turnkey property with a tenant that's been there for 5 years and they pay on time every month. I always tell people, like, you got to assume that tenant that you think you're buying is going to trash the place and leave on day one after you close on the property. And if it doesn't make sense for you to make that investment given that, then it just doesn't make sense, period.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go from there. So you're buying property, you're not buying tenants. And you just gotta, it's a numbers conversation of, you're investing your hard-earned money. What do you want your rate of return to be in order for it to make sense for you?
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of times what's marketed isn't realistic to what you're actually going to make. So that's where I find, especially with people that are out of town, like, they're just expecting it to be different than what it is. And, I'm not here to have somebody invest and have them fall on their face and they're, based on what they're expecting. I tell people flat out, like, look at, you can buy a $50,000 property in Rochester and make money on it. It does mean no good financially to, lie to you or lead you down a path of no return, just to get a $50,000 deal under my belt, right? I want to advise you and kind of partner with you to be this, it's almost like a financial advisor role of sorts, to where you're making enough money that you keep buying properties. And then, selfishly, then we're making more money, right? So, that's kind of the approach that I'll just tell people that too.
And Jason's really good. I overhear the phone calls that he takes on, and I was kind of smirking when you brought it up, like, any advice for people in this market? Well, it's tough right now, right? In this market, it's an extreme seller's market, and that's true for the investment world. And Jason's able to vet the right buyers and the wrong buyers right away by asking those questions. Are you realistic, right? Because listen, we deal with unrealistic people all the time. What's happening right now with our values that have gone to a level I never anticipated, at least in this decade.
Right.
And unrealistic, so the market, the residential real estate market, the single family home primary residence market, the market caught up to the delusional sellers, right? What stuff's selling for today was the amounts that crazy sellers thought they would get last year, the year before. So the sellers that were out of their minds a year ago, they could probably get what they were asking for. It's not delusional anymore. With the investments, and that's why it's so important to reel them in and see if they have realistic expectations. because Jason deals with those phone calls, and every time there's a seminar in town of some dude selling snake oil pulling up to a convention center in his Fiero, people watch that, and they attend these seminars, or they're watching Flip It Like Disick, and I just took a course, and they told us to offer 50% of list price, and there's still those people out there, and you have to identify them right away. And if you explain to them that their goals are unrealistic and they don't like what you're telling them, you just save yourself a ton of time. Let them go bother the next idiot that's going to cart these people around and show them something that are never going to buy anything. So as long as you're realistic, there's still opportunities out there. And listen, I predict that this commercial space, commercial brick and mortar, the values are going to go down. And yet when they do, you're going to get people with deep pockets that are going to scoop it all up, because in 10 years, we may discover that, people stop becoming productive from home. We need to get them back in the office.
Right.
Now there's going to be an abundance of desire for commercial real estate.
What's going to happen is our immune systems are going to get weaker because we're not seeing anybody, and then the cold's going to get us and take us down.
Yep. And
you got to get that herd immunity.
Yep. Sally went from being a hot 24-year-old, and now she's 27, 250 pounds. She's got whiskers, a unibrow, and mustard stains on the Zoom meeting. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, I got to save these people's lives. They got to get back to work.
You're turning me on, Anthony.
I know.
Yeah.
You had me at mustard stains.
I got a tip for people. Nobody's really doing vacationing, so they got to make their backyard nice. I bought a projector and backyard screen to watch movies on.
There you go.
Like a white trash drive-in theater.
Does that work? I've always wondered if it works.
Yeah,
if the
they work
lighting's
good.
good, if you can see it.
It's got to be night. It's got to be dark. You can't do it in almost dark. It's got to be dark. So
dark.
My kids are already asleep by then, so I just got drunk and watched Jaws, and it was great.
I drove by his place. I drove by his place at 11 o'clock. I'm hoping the kids were sleeping, but him and Lily were watching porn in the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, 20-foot screen.
The name of the porn was Jaws. Yeah.
No, it was Lockjaw.
Yeah, Jaws.
Right, yeah.
So there's a tip for you guys. It was only like $200.
I like it.
Yeah.
Big projector screen.
Yeah.
All right. We can check out AmericanTerraTeam.com, subscribe to the real estate show there and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButeraTeam.com.